let's talk about Manchester City. We're going to talk about Erling Haaland further down the line because he's on the way to your beloved Manchester City. That we now know. But the ball's in City's court tonight, Trev, because Liverpool came back last night after being 1 down to Villa at Villa, and now draw level temporarily with Manchester City at the top again. But I mean, when you look at it, Trevor, because now we're really making an impact in the month of May with injuries, tiredness creeping in, the title race, is it going to come down to who have the greatest mentality to get there?
No, I think both teams have proved that they've got the mentality to win the Premier League. They've both done it in years gone by. I think it's the quality of the squad, the rotation of the players. I think you need a little bit of luck with injuries at the right times. But it's all about performance. It's all about getting yourself regenerated, resting the muscles, getting the rest in, and making sure you're ready for the next performance. Obviously, Liverpool have got the FA Cup final on Saturday, so that's a bit of a diversion for them. Manchester City playing tonight against Wolves away. Won't be easy. I think they're the 4th least goals conceded in the Premier League, so it's going to be difficult to break them down. But I believe they've got the squad that can go there. You know, the performance against Newcastle at the weekend was superb. 2 goals by Raheem Sterling, the first and the last. I thought were exceptional.
But injury problems, Trevor.
They have, yeah. They've got
now they're going to make do without Stones, without Walker, without Diaz.
Yeah, but
from this point onwards,
Nathan Ake could be back, so he could go in at left back. You could have Cancelo at right back. They might switch to a free. Rodri can play in there. Fernandinho's played in there before. There's plenty of options, and this is probably the best way to sum up Pep. You would say he gets the best out of players, not just in their position. He absolutely adapts them to play in different positions. And that's why, on quite a relatively small squad, I think he's got 13 players available, he's managed to rotate the players in different positions and still get an end performance and results.
Well, it was interesting, Simon, when we spoke to Guardiola about this point in the season, he chose to throw in a tennis analogy. Have a listen to this.
The most difficult service in tennis is the service you have to serve to be champion. So it's quite similar to that position. We need 6-7 points to be champion, and there will be the more difficult ones. These away games against Wolves, West Ham will be, we have to do the best of ourselves to do it. This is the only important thing.
Interesting, isn't it? Where are you at with Pep's thinking?
It's an interesting analogy. I would have thought the most difficult service is trying to stay in the Championship final. And you're serving to stay in. But notwithstanding it, there is an argument to be said that once you've got to that point, you've just got to step over the line and make the final part of the execution. Man City are going to win the league. I didn't think they weren't. I didn't think that when the
you can't say that with certainty.
No, they're going to win the league. In my belief, nothing's certain unless you're in control of your own destiny. You're the one that's doing it, and other people aren't in your way. But in my belief, and when we were looking at this quadruple, and we were talking about Man City playing Liverpool in the FA Cup, and Man City potentially playing Liverpool in the Champions League, I gave a not so much a crass analogy, but a sort of linear one. But I believe that Man City would win the Premier League, and that Liverpool would win the cups. Yeah, and that's what I believe will happen. Unless Liverpool have a bad day on Saturday, they'll beat Chelsea. Unless Liverpool have a bad day in the Champions League final, they'll beat Madrid. And Man City will take care of business and win the Premier League. And I think that's what's going to happen.
So it's come in cheaper than expected, this deal involving Erling Haaland going to Manchester City. A release clause of 51 million quid, Trevor. Does that give City an edge in this title race going into the final days?
I think it gives them a confidence boost. Possibly,
all the talk.
Possibly, it's a boost, isn't it, for the club, for the fans, for everyone associated with the football club. They've got, a 21-year-old, probably the hottest prospect in European football, take away Mbappe out of that equation. You've got the hottest property as a striker. It's an area where I think Pep's been quite shrewd in the past. I think he realises he needs one. He tried to get Harry Kane last summer, couldn't get that over the line. But he's realised for a while, since Aguero stopped having the kind of impact that he had for Manchester City and then obviously left last summer, he realised that they need a striker, and they've been able to, jumping ahead of the queue of Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. And we had this discussion a few weeks ago, and I said, if I was in this position as a footballer, you look at each club individually, you look at what you want to achieve in your career. And I think Manchester City is probably the best proposal. I don't think Liverpool was on the table because they've got centre forwards and they don't need a player in that position. But I said Manchester City and Liverpool are probably the two biggest clubs in Europe, and the status quo's changed. It used to be Real Madrid. If you can get to Real Madrid, you go. If you can get to Barcelona, you go. I think with the problems that La Liga's had with their financial fair play and trying to manage their financial situations, they've not got the same clout. I think Bayern Munich would love to have taken him. Manchester United would love to have taken him as well, and they could have had him for 18 million 3 seasons ago, and they chose that they didn't want to take the clause that Erling Haaland wanted in that contract from RB Salzburg. They could have had him for 18 million. They could have sold him for 51, whatever it's going to be. They chose not to take that option up because they didn't want him to have that option.
Well,
who can afford not to have a player like Erling Haaland for 3 years and then sell him for 3 times the money if he wants to go? I'd be like, we'll take him, sell the club to him, make sure he understands the project, wants to be at the football club and wants to stay. I think that was a bit of arrogancy by Manchester United because they're a big club. They've said, "Oh, we're not accepting that." Now he's gone to Borussia Dortmund. He's played 3 superb years there. Youngest player to score 20 goals in the Champions League. Pulled up trees in the league itself. And I think all Borussia Dortmund fans will give him a good farewell.
Well, the figure involved is less than what we thought, Simon. Agents' fees, bonuses factor in. It comes to about 85.5 million. Yeah. Interestingly, this was Jurgen Klopp on his thoughts on City capturing Haaland's signature.
Good player. But City was never and will never be a team who wins games because of one player, with a specific way to play. And I think Erling will realize if all of a sudden he will score a lot of goals on a second post, where he just puts the foot on, so he will love that. And now we have other situations where he's a real beast. Was now injured a couple of times at Dortmund, but when he's fit, he's a real beast. So, yeah, unfortunately, a really good signing.
And he probably means it. He will be a good signing, but the figures involved, Simon, less than what we thought.
Which just shows you how uninformed journalists are, aren't they? They've spent the last 18 months telling us everyone what the release clause was, and it was wrong. The release clause that was said was 75 million. The release clause is 60 million euros, not 75 million euros. So fortunately for Manchester City, nothing to do with Manchester City's acumen, nothing to do with Manchester City's pull. They've got an opportunity because the agent at the time and the player had the wherewithal to put a release clause in there that most of the top European clubs could achieve. You can't forecast a situation, and it's very clever thinking. I don't know where the strategy came from, but to put a clause in there that at one point in the contract triggers a release price. Because last year, if you wanted him and no one was prepared to take the punt and say, well, hang on a second, we'll just pay what you want, something similar with Jadon Sancho, which is what Man United did. No, we're not playing that nonsense with you. You're not paying £110 million for this player. We're going to buy him for 73 million. So they bought him 51. We should also, by the way, be a bit unhappy about this other 35 million quid. What's that about? Where's that going? What's that other 35 million for?
It's fees, isn't it? I think
whose fees?
Half of it's going to his father, who's managed him all his life.
We should be saying something about that. We should be saying, is it fees? Is it a way of suppressing the basic wage? And he's got huge sign-ons that we're not visible, because we're not visible to the transfer fee, because we didn't know that, and we've been talking about it.
I think that's exactly what it is.
I think they've dressed it up. I think probably out of 36 million, probably about 20 million of it is an additional supplement to his wages.
Yeah.
In terms of sign-on fees. That then puts him on £500,000 a week, and we have our view on that. Whatever our view is, what footballers should and should get paid. But the bottom line is that £51 million for a transfer, Erling Haaland is a talent that's worth taking an opportunity on, because in the Bundesliga he set it on fire. We will see. Timo Werner set the Bundesliga on fire. Let's see if Haaland can translate. I suspect he will, because he's going to a team in Man City that will afford him that opportunity.
But I think Trevor's right to be bullish about this.
I don't think
in terms of what City have actually managed to acquire.
Well, I think Diaz. Look at Diaz as a signing. Diaz is cheaper than Haaland, and look at the impact that he's making for Liverpool, and look at the potential he has. Such a potential that there's a discussion that they might break up the Fab Three in terms of maybe let Firmino go, or that's a discussion that might be happening in the background.
I think it's a discussion for the future, isn't it? Because we don't know what Erling Haaland's going to do in the Premier League.
He's not going to make him weaker, is he?
He's not going to make him weaker. When you look at centre forwards for Pep Guardiola, they have struggled. Eto'o, Ibrahimovic, David Villa, they've all struggled under Pep, and it's not been a match made in heaven. The centre forwards for Pep haven't worked out. Even Aguero, for a lot of his part of his career whilst Pep was manager, it didn't go superbly well.
True.
So that's really probably my only concern, because when you look at I keep on comparing to Jadon Sancho because they come from the same club, they're a similar age. Jadon Sancho's not got the fundamentals that you need to have in the Premier League, for me. He's not got raw pace. Erling Haaland has that. But the only concern that I
Sancho
had...
doesn't have raw pace.
He's not fast. He's not fast enough for me for a winger.
No.
The only problem I have with this is previous centre-forwards playing under Pep. It's not been a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Well, now we know that City have paid 51 million for Haaland, but the player and his agents get a further 34 million, as Simon identified there, as part of the deal. Anyway, which way up? He is heading to Manchester City. A lot to get through this morning. Trevor, the messages are still coming in, I'm afraid to tell you. There's Ryan. Jim, I was in that walk-in medical centre when Trevor arrived. I watched him as he tried to bribe the doctor to give him a sick note.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.